Hello, welcome to SMA. I am Richard Flight. I'm an associate marketing professor at Southern Illinois University in Edwardsville. I'm going to go over the research design and the idea that we have for emotional reactions to unexpected packaging characteristics and the design of our study and the results as well. As I introduce this topic, I'd like to just lay out some definitions. We are looking at package design and the different ideas associated with how packages look, their color, how they feel, things like typeface, smells, sounds, the creativity of the package, and so forth. Generally speaking, prior research has suggested that the design of a package can be used to create or elicit some type of response among consumers as they evaluate your package. Just to give you a rundown of, again, of some of the different dimensions of package design, I noted color, tactility or feel before, smells and sound. Other things exist too, though, like the layout of the labeling, the verbiage on the package, typefaces that are used, color, of course, nostalgic value, whether it looks like a package that's an older package or one that's been used for a long time that people will remember for a long period of time, and so on. So this literature is actually fairly deep in terms of different ideas or dimensions that are associated with product design. So our idea is to consider when a package is unusual or looks odd or different or is designed in a way that creates some type of uncertainty. So what we're honing in here on is package incongruity, in the sense that when you look at a package for a product, you would expect a certain amount of sameness across different brands. However, when one brand stands out, you notice it. Pringles, of course, is a classic example of how the Pringles can is unique within the chip aisle. It stands out, and it's very obvious when you see the design of the package, what it is and who it's for and such. And as a result, that package design is as much of its brand as anything. So atypical or unusual designs can spark the interest of a consumer and give the product and the brand more retail visibility and work as a brand asset that can be developed, which ultimately leads to brand equity. So as we move forward, we want to ask this question of why package design incongruity would be important to us. So again, as a package appears different or unlike the others, it should gain some attention. It should draw you towards it, maybe hook your interest as a consumer, and that would potentially develop a liking or an interest in that brand. It could ultimately lead to positive brand perceptions and intentions to buy, which really suggests a strong tie to branding and what we would think of as the package as a part of the brand or a brand asset, as much as you would think of its name or its color design or the logos or the jingles and things of that nature, which would also be brand assets. Certainly package design can fall into that category too. We also see how brand incongruity may lend itself or at least connect tangentially to literature that would relate to atmospherics, and in a specific area of store atmospherics would include aesthetic design and design cues. We may also see this as an extension in other literature that deals with sensation-seeking or novelty-seeking behaviors among consumers. So certainly there's a research history and a background that's associated with packaging, and to some extent packaging incongruity and being able to tie hopefully this literature into a broader sense of consumers who are looking for or reacting to unusual shopping environments. So if we boil this down, our research purpose is has a couple different positions here. One, we want to consider that packaging congruity positively impacts emotional responses towards products. So when we see something different, it cues our interests, our curiosity, and our surprise. One of the things we think we'll find is that emotional responses are heightened or increased when we see something different or unusual within a package. This heightened emotional response will ultimately lead to some positive outcome, like interest and attention in a product and potentially brand purchase intention. Now, in this research, we don't have formal hypotheses. This is really exploratory and model development type work, so we're not quite ready to make formal hypotheses, although we do test a model and we can make those, but we fall a little short of doing that today. Not only will emotional responses towards products be enhanced or increased, so the overall degree we think of emotional responses will improve, we would think that positively associated emotional responses would increase while negative affect in this case would decrease. We'll also in this research consider the roles that affect or prior knowledge of or feelings towards a brand would have as an interaction, because certainly if you are familiar with a brand and you already like a brand, that may have an impact, we would suppose, on the overall model that we're looking towards. So to sum this up, or maybe add a picture or an illustration of what we're considering, what we're going to do is kind of a two-staged approach. Number one, we're going to measure package incongruity, and we're going to measure it in a pretest using a series of different packaging dimensions. So we're going to look at shape, material, texture, image, pattern, typeface, and color. So we're actually going to look at those things. We're going to look at different products. We're going to choose products to add to our study that vary in the sum total of their incongruity or their level of incongruity, so that we can test the model, which is to the right, where we look at our emotional response constructs, and they will lead to some change or impact in interest and attention, all being moderated by brand effect and brand familiarity. So we have interactions going on that impact the relationship between emotions and an outcome variable or outcome variables that we measure as interest and attention in the brand. Theoretically, we would suppose that if somebody's interested and we have their attention, they're more likely to buy. So this could be a buying model that is generated through these emotional characteristics. Okay, so study design then. What we did was we had a pretest where we had 22 different packages, and we had a fairly limited number of evaluators. So we had 20 package evaluators. The evaluators were randomly assigned packages to look at. They looked at each evaluator looked at all 22 packages, so it took some time. But what they did was they looked at each package and they rated each package on a series of dimensions. And we were really, really careful about defining incongruity, defining each dimension. So the respondent would score on a scale how different or how unusual or how changed or in this way incongruent a package was on a series of different dimensions. And the point of this was to get an overall score of incongruity on each of the different 22 packages so that we could select a few of those for the main study or the main test, which we did. So in the main test, we chose 6 packages. Those were the 6 that varied in incongruity and all shared something similar in terms of their product category. We used a convenience sample, which I'll mention in a few minutes. We had 116 respondents in this who were measured on their, who observed, went into the lab. They looked at 3 different packages. So they didn't look at 22 or anything like that. They just looked at 3 different packages. So they were randomly designed or randomly selected in an experimental design to look at packages that varied by product type and also by incongruity. So from that, then we were able to evaluate the results and do some regression analysis from that point on. Some of the results or the way this turned out from the pilot portion. Basically, what we did was, again, we measured the different brands, and these are the different brands that were there, the 22 different brands, and we created a summated score that would be each package's incongruity as we defined it, and as the 20 participants in the pretest evaluated them. And so this was how it turned out. Coca-Cola, the packaging that we used for Coca-Cola was actually really unique and unusual for Coca-Cola. And because I think it was so unique, it didn't use their traditional, it was like an Olympics themed bottle. So it was pretty unusual in terms of its color and logoing and such like that. But it rated the highest of all of these brands in terms of incongruity. Jared, which is a jewelry store, the package that was used for Jared was actually the least incongruent in terms of its look, and it was like a typical jewelry box, basically. But the ones that we chose, so we chose 6 different brands: Urban Outfitters, Sky, Citizen Watch, Breckenridge, Bacardi, and then Jared. And the reason why we chose these packages from these brands, and we really didn't choose the brands, we chose the packages, but the reason why we chose these was because they varied in incongruity between high and low, and they were in 3 different product categories. We had alcohol, a candle was the product, and then jewelry. So Urban Outfitters was actually a candle by Urban Outfitters, which was really unusual by the measure of incongruity. And then Breckenridge also had a candle, and so within that product category, that was our high and our low. Sky vodka and then Bacardi rum, whereas two alcohols, again, a high and a low in terms of incongruity, and then Citizen and then Jared were jewelry companies, a high and a low there as well. So these were the 6 packages then that were used in the main study that we had consumers or respondents react to. This study sample, again, had a sample of 116 respondents. This was a convenient sample drawn from university seniors in a Midwestern mid-sized university. The gender split was 53 male, 46 female. Again, there was not a lot of diversity in terms of age because of the sample that we had. And the ethnic breakdown was pretty typical for the general population within the region. Obviously, a limitation of this study would be the size of the sample, but more importantly, the makeup of the sample. We need general consumers that maybe have a broader experience with these product categories, and are more broad in terms of overall scope, probably in age and also educational background. To get into some of the scales and the items that we use to measure the model itself, so within the main study, we had 5 or 6 here, constructs that we developed or we used from prior research. So we had a brand familiarity scale and a brand affect scale, so whether they liked the brand or were familiar with it. And if you'll remember, these are our 2 constructs that were used to measure our interaction. We also had a happiness scale, an encouragement, an inspiration scale, all with very, very high alphas, curiosity and surprised. We had negative affect, and then the final scale was our interest and attention scale, which we used as an outcome. Again, very high alphas, composite reliabilities, and average variance extracted was all really strong. EFA loadings were strong as well. Now, what we did in this, we actually did a multivariate regression. We did not do a SEM, but we did 2 different regression models. We did one multivariate regression model using the 3 high condition incongruity products, and then we did a second multivariate regression with the 3 low incongruity packages. And then what we simply did was compare the 2 models. We included interactive terms, so we had our 4 direct relationships that were measured, as well as the interactive terms that were that were used to measure the interactions of brand affect, feelings towards the brand, and then brand familiarity. So generally speaking, when we look at the results, one thing we'll notice is that in the high condition, all of the betas are stronger than they would be in the low condition for our direct effects. 2 of these are significantly different and significantly stronger in the high condition. So negative affect was much stronger in the negative sense in the high condition, and also happiness and joy was much stronger or significantly different between the 2, and it was much stronger in the low condition. Which is interesting in and of itself. When we look at the effects, the control effects or the interactions, we see that familiarity and affect both impact curiosity and surprise. So we'll look at those a little bit more as we move forward. When we look at the direct effects, then each emotional response, as I mentioned, was enhanced in the high incongruity condition as compared to the low incongruity condition. 2 emotional responses, negative affect and happiness and joy, were significantly higher, but they were higher in opposite conditions. So negative affect was stronger, had a negative, stronger relationship to interest and attention in the high condition. So with a lot of incongruity, negative affect was enhanced, or it had a stronger impact the more on more stronger negative impact on attention and interest. Whereas, interestingly, the opposite effect happened for happiness and joy. Happiness and joy had a stronger positive effect on attention and interest. So that's an interesting result in and of itself. The interactions are also interesting. Familiarity served to lessen a respondent's curiosity and surprise, and did so significantly more in the lower condition. Whereas affect served to strengthen the respondent's curiosity and surprise, but did so more so in the low, more so also in the low incongruity condition as well. All right, so implications in design. Broadly speaking, this research generally supports prior research indicating that package incongruity impacts emotional responses. So as a product is thought of as incongruent, the emotional response is enhanced. Positive emotional responses tend to positively influence product interest, whereas negative ones would negatively do so. Extending this research, we're thinking about those interactions in particular. Familiarity negatively impacts curiosity and surprise. So the more familiar you are with something, the less curious you probably are about it because you already know about it. But this can be minimized when incongruous packaging is used. So if you have a well-known brand, jazz up your packaging, and this will give customers familiar with you a new reason to look your way. At the same time, positive affect, good feelings about the brand, also impact curiosity and surprise, but they do so more when incongruent packaging is not used, which is a real interesting finding. Generally, and the way we summarize this is if customers love your brand, you don't need to jazz up the packaging more than it is. However, if you have targeted customers who already have some negative impression of your brand, a new product design will enhance their experience with you. Okay, so again, thank you for your time. We apologize for not being there. I know it's been a great event. Look forward to any feedback that you might have. Thank you so very much for your time.